Well, hey guys, thanks for tuning in. Real quick, I want to invite you to go to the Titan Tungsten website. Use discount code Veteran Outdoorsman for 10% off. Titan Tungsten has all sorts of accessories, small tackle boxes, lots of fishing weights, etc. More places are requiring non-toxic weights, just like they're requiring non-toxic shot shells. Tungsten is heavier than lead, so there's a lot of advantages there. Titan makes the only ones that I believe are affordable. Um, we all know that tungsten is very expensive, so 10% off will help. So go there, check it out. If you like it, let me know. Um, but use discount code Veteran Outdoorsman, and you can get 10% off. So let's get into the video. Modern versus classic. By classic, you're going to probably say is a stretch, but I'll explain that. Modern versus classic pump action shotguns. Pump action shotguns started with the Winchester 1893. It was quickly upgraded to the 1897. The 1893 was a short chambered, 2.5-inch chambered gun, Damascus twist barrel, basically a black powder only proposition. Marlin had some pump action shortly thereafter, um, with external hammers, just like the Model 97, Model 93. They weren't super strong guns. The 97 was where it really started. The first really practical pump action shotgun. Exposed hammer. I have one, but it's a shooting match gun. It's got a scope on it, things like that. I didn't want to bring that out for this video. But the first strong smokeless powder. Some of them, I believe, did have Damascus barrels, some of the early guns, though, so be careful with that if you have one. But the first strong, reliable, practical pump action. So from the late 1800s to present, pump actions have been available. Sometime around World War I to the Depression era, things like that, the standard everyday man's gun went from being a double barrel to being a pump action shotgun. To today, where the working man's gun is generally a pump action shotgun. You go to shooting matches, you go out in the field, etc., you're going to see more pump actions probably than any other type of gun. Chances are, if you've got a pump action shotgun in your closet, there's a pretty good chance it may be an 870 Wingmaster. Clear? Somebody's going to say, that's not a Wingmaster, it's got a synthetic stock. I bought this gun in really sad shape, really beat up. This is an old large ring, 20 gauge, 26-inch fixed barrel, serrated, what they call the serrated rib, but it's a plain barrel with some serrations on top. I bought this a long time ago with a really beat up walnut stock on it. I wanted it as a rabbit and quail gun, so I bought a synthetic stock to put on it. I later gave the gun to my wife. So this is going to be our classic representation. Remington 870. This one happens to be a 20 gauge. A classic pump action. Steel receiver. Generally they'll have walnut. I replaced it with synthetic. A little heavier steel receiver as a general rule. We'll go into that here in a minute. Fixed chokes. This has a 26-inch fixed improved cylinder choke. A lot of them had fulls or modifieds. Not an overly heavy gun. This gun, 7 pounds probably. This was made in the 50s, so it's got a lighter barrel, thinner wall barrel. The newer 870s with the smaller scaled down receiver 20 gauges are even lighter yet. But we're not talking specifically 20 gauge or 12 gauge, we're just talking pump action guns. So a classic pump action, a Remington 870, Winchester Model 12, those will generally be considered the classics. And then kind of in between would be Winchester 1200s and 1300s, Mossberg 500s, all just workhorse guns. Whatever you put in them, they're going to cycle because you do the cycling. This gun was made in 1957. It is as smooth as butter. Man, this was my primary rabbit gun for a long time. And it doesn't get much better. Fairly lightweight. 2 3/4 inch chambered only. That's a lot of the old classic guns are going to be 2 3/4 inch chambered only. That's why I picked this one as my example. We'll go into advantages and disadvantages of that in a little bit when we compare and contrast. Steel receivers, the old Model 12s, the 870s, and various others by Stevens, etc. Steel receivers. You get into the Mossberg 500, Winchester 120, 1200, 1300. Those had aluminum receivers. Mossberg 835, based on the 500. Then you get into more modern guns that they almost all have aluminum receivers. Or polymer receivers. We'll get into that here in a little bit. But you can beat these guns to death. Whether it be a Wingmaster or an Express, the steel receiver, beat them to death. Easy to maintain. You just take this off, the barrel comes off, clean it. Don't have to worry about light shells or heavy shells. Some of them will even cycle the shorties. Because again, you're cycling the action. Unlike the automatics we talked about, look, in the last video, these guns they cycle anything. You got a 3.5 inch gun, you can shoot 2 3/4 inch, 7/8 ounce loads all the way to 3.5 inch, 2 1/4 ounce loads without any issues. Interchangeably, etc. Just boom, boom, boom. That's why the pump gun's the working man's gun. Less moving parts, generally less expensive, etc. Let's get into a more modern gun. Based on the Winchester 1200 and 1300. This is Winchester Super X pump. Nice. It's clear. Nice butter smooth action. Standard with synthetic stock. You can get wood stocks on these guns, glossier blue, etc. Costs you more money. This gun is typically sold under $400. Invector Plus choke tubes came with 3. I bought a turkey choke tube to go with it. This is a 20 gauge as well. 3-inch chamber versus 2 3/4 inch only. A lot of the more modern pumps are even available with 3.5 inch chambers, so that's something to think about when you're talking 12 gauges. Not 20, but 12, 3-inch chamber. You can get them with Cerakote finishes, camouflage stocks, things like that. Standard features such as slings, swivel studs, more readily available with vent rib barrels again. interchangeable choke tubes. Extendable magazines, though the 870 you can do that as well. Lighter weight aluminum receivers. This is I think this gun weighs 6.5 pounds. More modern recoil pads, things like that. But for the most part, pump's a pump. Put a shell in the chamber, load up the magazine, bang, 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 bang. Pretty well how it goes. But the aluminum receivers are pretty standard. Remington still makes the 870 with a steel receiver. I believe it's the only gun still, the only pump still available with a steel receiver. Mossbergs and Winchesters went to aluminum receiver a long time ago, and most of the others followed. Remington made, I think it's the 878. Kinda to compete with the Benelli Nova, we'll talk about in a second, that has a polymer wrapped barrel, a combination, I don't know if it's aluminum or steel with polymer, but similar to the 870. But most, whether you get a Charles Daly or Stevens or Weatherby or whatever, most of your receivers now are going to be aluminum. Aluminum's been around in gun manufacturing for a long time. Aluminum is very strong, especially modern alloys. Something this more modern gun comes with, and a more open trigger guard. Now it's plastic. Some guys don't like that, but polymers have come a long ways as well in the last 20 to 30 years. So gloved hands fit it better. The biggest advantages of more modern guns to the more classics is the lighter weight aluminum receivers and interchangeable choke tubes. Somebody's going to say, well, my 870 had choke tube. The 870's been around since the 50s. They caught up with the times. So yes, the 870s from the 80s on, sure, had choke tubes. The older ones did not, like that one, fixed choke. The interchangeable choke tubes are nice. It is nice to have that capability. Just unscrew this, put it in your pocket, put the other choke in. It's very nice. The lighter weight. As a general rule, a pump will be a half a pound to a pound lighter than an autoloader. Let me center me up a little bit here. Great. Hang on, folks. Bear with me as I'm having technical difficulties. A pump will be a little bit lighter than an autoloader. More reliable in the fact that you don't have to keep it as clean. You need to keep your guns clean, I understand that. But you're not going to mess up the gas systems, things like that, by them being dirty, because there isn't one. You just cycle whatever. And more reliable as far as light shells and whatnot, because you're manually cycling the action. Benelli stepped it up with a polymer receiver years ago. And guys like Benelli, they liked the reliability of a Benelli, but they didn't like the price tag of a Benelli. So Benelli said, I got something for you. They came out with the Benelli Nova and then later the Supernova polymer receivers, pump action, interchangeable choke tubes, takes mobile chokes, a very good choke system. My Beretta has mobile chokes. Plenty of them out there available. The newer pumps from Winchester and Browning will take Invector Plus choke tubes. And I was wrong. The BPS, which has been out a long time and more of a classic gun, that also has a steel receiver. But the more modern guns will have aluminum receivers, synthetic stocks, though what is available for sure, even on the cheaper guns like Charles Daly's and things like that, you can get Citadels, whatnot. You can get wood stocks on them if that's what you like. Not as much difference. I just did the video on the autoloaders. Not as much difference. Modern pumps versus modern autoloaders. For the most part, a pump's a pump. The more modern guns will be available in 3-inch chamber, 3.5-inch chamber, which may be a big advantage to you. If you're shooting a 20 gauge and you want to turkey hunt or duck hunt, 3-inch is a big advantage. If you're an upland hunter, small game hunter, regardless of the gauge, 2 3/4 inch will do just fine. Like I said, the biggest advantages being lighter weight guns, interchangeable choke tubes, more readily interchangeable barrels, the old Model 12s, Model 97s, Remington Model 10s, 31s, Ithaca 37s, which is another one if they still make that. That still has a steel receiver as well. Those guns, not as readily able to change barrels, because a lot of times the magazine tube and the fore end stayed on that assembly. Some of them weren't even takedowns. But the big advantages of pumps, just they're cheaper to shoot. They're cheaper to own. Not cheaper to shoot, they're cheaper to own. Less moving parts, less expensive gun. They can be had for in the neighborhood of $250 to $500 very easily, and even a nicer wood stock gun. Where, other than the entry level, real budget minded autoloaders, when you want to get into self-regulating automatics or self-regulating autoloaders or inertia operated autoloaders, you're talking more in the $750 to $1,000 range for an autoloader. Maybe get into some for a little over 500, but not as common. So the pump is the working man's gun. I would say up into the 70s, as a general rule, out in the field, you saw a guy with an 870 or a Model 12. The Model 12 for the first half of the century was the gun to own for a pump shotgun. It was the working man's gun. And then it became the 870. The 870 is still hard to beat. The Mossberg 500 has a great reputation as well. And then now, I don't know if because of Remington's bankruptcy issues and things like that, I don't know if any one pump really has a corner on the market. Winchester Super X is a great one. The 870 is still a great gun. Mossberg 500, nothing wrong with that. Browning BPS, Ithaca 37. But I don't know if they're still manufactured, but there's still plenty of them out there. Lots of other ones, Stevens, Charles Daly, etc. Importing guns. Hey, the Winchester's imported from Turkey. Believe it or not. But it's based on the old 1200 and 1300s. I believe the 12 gauge is even available in 3.5-inch gun, but the standard is a 3-inch. Almost feels like it's on ball bearing. It's nice and smooth, a little tight here, but this gun hasn't been shot a lot. It'll loosen up over time. That classic sound of the pump action Uh, Winchester dolled it up a little bit with the red Winchester on it. I've always liked that. Uh, Red lettering on Winchesters I've just always liked. Like I said, the more modern guns tend to come with sling studs, better recoil pads, things like that. Tend to be a little lighter weight. I did the video on autoloaders, but for the working man, the guy on a budget, a pump is a way to go. They'll shoot anything. They're reliable. They're nearly indestructible. So let's compare a little bit once again. Classic versus modern. The 870 representing the classic. They generally would have wood stocks, the old ones. Steel receivers, fixed chokes, etc. A little heavier, 2 3/4 inch chambered only, blah, blah, blah. Lighter receiver, vent rib barrel, interchangeable choke tubes. It all depends on what you want to do. This classic old gun, quail hunting, dove hunting, rabbit hunting, no problem. If I had a modified or full choke gun, squirrel hunting, pheasant hunting, things like that would be fine. This gun, a little more versatile. Interchangeable choke tubes. They both got 26-inch barrels. Interchangeable choke tubes. More durable finish. Lighter weight. Standard with synthetic stock. Better for a field gun, in my opinion. Standard with a really nice vent rib barrel. Standard with sling swivel studs. A little better recoil pads. Standard with 3-inch chamber. Since that's a large ring gun, not as easy to find replacement barrels. This one you buy them straight from Winchester, and some aftermarkets will probably pick them up as well. As soon as a cantilever slug barrel comes out for the 20 gauge, I'm going to buy one. Right now they have open sight barrels, but they don't have cantilever barrels. As soon as they come out with one, I'll buy it. They do have the 12 gauge. I'm sure the 20 gauge is coming. Again, this one's a little stiff because it's fairly new, but still a nice, quick cycling gun. A pump can be cycled almost as fast as an autoloader. Compared to the old long-action autoloaders like the Auto 5, can actually be cycled even faster, believe it or not. But just the old classic pumps have always pointed really well for me. I've shot 870s, 1200s, 1300s, Mossberg 500. Pump actions have always just been my go-to. For years, my do-everything shotgun was a Remington 870 Express. I had 2 of them, synthetic stock, 3-inch, 28-inch barrel, 12 gauge. I replaced years ago with a Beretta 390, but one of my go anywhere, do anything guns right now is this 20 gauge. If you're a budget-minded guy, and you just want bare bones reliability, hard to beat a pump action shot. So these classic versus modern videos, we're going to see how they go. I may do some more like with handguns, rifles, things like that. But I hope you enjoyed the video. I stammer a little bit and I stutter a little bit. Hope you can get past that. Please like and subscribe as we try to grow the channel. Again, check out the discount code VETERANOUTDOORSMAN on Titan Tungsten's website. And we'll see you in the next video.